Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of November 6th, 2023, a date of marriage of 2004. She has a boomerang who is a low energy wallower. She says, in 2023 we had two traumatizing deaths along with ED. He moved into his mother's house on January 25th, 2024 with just a suitcase, and he started testosterone shots. He texts me weekly about letting the dog out when I'm at work, but he avoids seeing me. When he has seen me, he cries and says he doesn't feel any different since leaving. He has cut off contact with all of our friends, and he goes to the bar alone at night. There has been an emotional affair, alienator, since late fall. At bomb drop, he listed things I didn't do to make him happy. And he said he's 45 and his life is half over. Last month, I apologized for those things, and he said not to let those things bother me. And he said we drifted apart. He wants out of his mom's, but he can't afford rent with our mortgage. He says he's happy to see me trying to live life. Last week, he retained a lawyer and filed for divorce. He can't say the divorce word and calls it a process. And this is what he needs to be happy again. He says he has anger and childhood issues. Do you have any advice to prevent the divorce from moving forward? Do some that file not go through with it? Well, sure. Some that file don't go through with it. You're right. This is a low energy wallower. You're dealing with a very depressed spouse. So the first question I have for you is, has he acknowledged or admitted that he is depressed, or is he resistant to that word? If he has acknowledged or admitted it, is he resistant to therapy or medical intervention? Is he resistant to professional help? Because what he really needs is professional help. But if he is resistant, you cannot do anything about that. If he is resistant to you suggesting it, you have to step back. But he may be resistant to getting it and not be resistant to the suggestion of it. So you may be able to just make a suggestion and then step back and have the seed planted. He may be resistant even to the suggestion, and you have to do nothing. Or you can plant a seed, and he's still resistant. Or he's not resistant, but he's not going to do anything, even though he'd say, yeah, I should do that. Yeah, I should see a doctor about it. And then he just won't do it. But your job is you don't make the appointments for him. You don't coddle him. You don't mother him. You don't enable. You can't do it for him. He still has to do the work. And that's tough. That's really tough. He's extremely depressed, and I think you know that. I also think he's more of a clinging boomerang than you realize. He is more interested in you because boomerangs tend to be more indifferent. He's not showing the typical things that I describe as clinging boomerang, where they're, oh, I'll be back someday, reassurance, oh, believe in me. But he doesn't show indifference to you. He says he's happy to see you trying to live life, but he's happy to see you trying to live life rather than reassured that you're trying to live life. He's happy for you. He can't say the divorce word. He just can't bring himself to do it because of the guilt and shame. He calls it a process. He doesn't really want it. He just doesn't want it. He thinks this is what he has to do to be happy again. He's looking at the next thing. Maybe this is what'll do it. Maybe this is what'll do it. Maybe if I buy a new house that doesn't have all the problems, I'll just leave the problems behind at this one. Maybe if I do this, I won't fix these things here. I'll just leave these problems and I'll start over here. I'll start over here. I'll start over here. But those won't work. And he's going to learn that, or he's not. And he's just going to keep cycling through the problems. He's seen you, he cries. That's it. I'm just going over the list of why he is a clinging boomerang. Because he's showing care and concern. The emotions are still bound to you. I'm showing attachment in a healthy attachment, or rather than healthy, let's call it a positive attachment detachment way. The care, concern. He doesn't feel any difference since leaving, but the difference that he's talking about not feeling, I don't know if he's aware of this, but he doesn't feel less depressed. He thinks that's about you. He says he cries when he sees you. He does. Because he loves you. Because he feels badly. But he cries because he's depressed. The thing that he doesn't feel different about is the depression. It's not that he doesn't feel, I thought I would miss you. I thought I'd feel differently about you. I thought I would feel like I should love you. Depression doesn't work that way. He's cut off contact with your friends. That's normal. He goes to the bar alone at night. Oh, such a sign of depression. And the midlife depression, 45, he feels his life is half over. You just had 2 traumatizing deaths. The ED. More things about his mortality and his virility, signs of aging. He can't make it. He doesn't feel he's a man anymore. All of these things. And you did great. You apologized for things, but at the same time, and it is okay to apologize, but at the same time, things he listed, things you didn't do to make him, or things you did to make him unhappy. And maybe these things are valid things that were your sins in a marriage. At the same time, we are never, ever, ever responsible for other people's happiness. Unless, of course, that person is a baby and that sort of thing. I don't create your happiness. I don't create my husband's happiness. He chooses that. Now, we can create a context, an environment in which it makes it difficult for people to be happy. We can make it difficult for people to choose happiness. So that is valid, that it is very difficult to choose happiness in certain environments. But I don't want you to apologize for everything, for things where he failed to choose happiness. I don't want you to apologize for him being depressed, but I do want you to apologize for the sins in your marriage, for your sins, for what was on your paper. So that is good, but also be careful that he doesn't make you responsible for him being happy. And some of that is just how we phrase the language of it. Make sure we're not phrasing the language of make happy. We have to be very careful with that. I did like, though, how he then said, and this is another thing where I say that he's not so much a boomerang and that he's more of a clinging boomerang. And it shows that he cares about you and that he is not he's not projecting this onto you. It also shows low energy wallowerness, which he is. But when you apologize, he then kind of took it back and he said, not to let those things bother you. So some of the things that he was complaining about, some of them he might not really have meant. It's like, he was just throwing them out there. They weren't really things that were as bothersome as he meant, possibly. He said you drifted apart. That's really a big excuse. He is just looking for every kind of next big fix that is an avoidance to really fixing himself. And he's just wallowing inside. Now, is that going to prevent a divorce? All I'm doing right now is explaining rather than giving you a solution. I'm not giving you actions. I'm sorry. Right now, I'm just explaining what's happening. What are the actions? Well, you can't solve him. I can't give you an action that solves him. What I can do is help you. Now, can that help him as a byproduct? maybe, but he still has to make the choices. I can't force the byproduct to work in him. Okay? So I want you to believe in him. And not just passively. So it's not passively believing in him. Prayer is a wonderful thing, but it's passive. So you can pray for him, but I want you to then tell him. And sometimes that doesn't mean you say, I'm praying for you. It's, I believe in you. Instead of saying, I'm praying for you, sometimes we hate it when people tell us, I'm praying for you. Sometimes it's a reassurance and it feels good. But sometimes some of the people who tell us that they're praying for us, they feel like we're doing a wrong. And I'm praying for your soul. And sometimes there's it, would you mind if I prayed for you? I know that you're sick. And that feels good. But, you're really, I think you're going through a hard path and you're just making the wrong choices. And I'm praying for you. And I'm like, I don't like your lifestyle and I don't like your faith. And we don't align on faith. And you're praying for me. Well, I think you're on your high horse. So that kind of praying for me, I'm like, it doesn't sit right with me. So be careful when you say you're praying for somebody. Instead, I believe in you. You are somebody who I know who you are in your heart and your soul. And I believe in you. I know that you're struggling right now. And I'm here for you. And I know you can do this, and I know you will come through this. And I know it's hard sometimes. But I'm here. And that doesn't mean I'm here to save you. You're going to save yourself. And I know you can do it. And if you need to talk, I'm here. And you also have to set a boundary. If he calls you every night to talk, and you're like, okay, you know what? He's leaning on me too much. Sometimes you're going to have to say no. There may not come a point because he hasn't done it. I'm just pointing that out sometimes that happens with people. So your job for yourself, not for your relationship with him, is to work on your healing, work on your life. He said, and he's happy to see you trying to live a life. That's good. Not even because he thinks it's good, but because it's good. It's good for you that you are living a life. It's good because you need to have a life where you are mentally healthy and physically healthy, and you are an attractive force. And then you can tell him, I believe in you. And you can be a mirror for what somebody can be. Say, you know what? I'm pulling myself up, and I know you can do it too. If anybody can do it, I did it. I can help you, but I can't do it for you. But I know, because I've done it, that I know others can do it. I've seen and I've experienced what can be done when we struggle, and we can do it with perseverance. And I know we're afraid, but we get through, and I know you can do it. But you've got to detach. You've got to focus on yourself. You've got to do your healing. Some file and don't go through with it. Some file and go through with it. And you know what? Unless you say it's the end, it doesn't have to be. It just doesn't have to be. You can file, and it can end before the filing. They can stop it before it gets to the end through court. Or it can go all the way to the end in court, and then you can get back together. People have done that too, okay? It only ends if you say it does, really. And you might say that, or you might not. It's your choice. He really doesn't want it to end. He just doesn't think there's an alternative right now. And that's what's so sad, is he is so depressed. And what I wish for him is that he could get some help getting through that depression. And I don't know if that depression needs more help. I don't know if there's some PTSD with it. I'm not saying that I've seen or I haven't seen that because I'm not an expert in it. But if there is, maybe he has some trauma. You said there were traumatizing deaths. Does he have, what is his background like? Childhood background? Does he have trauma from that you need to look into, or that he should look into? And if he's willing to look into it, for trauma therapies, what kind of professional help will he benefit from? He may not believe that would benefit him, but any kind of therapies that he would be willing to participate in to help him. If he's willing to participate, then it would help. Okay? And if he wouldn't, you have to go, you know what? Whatever. I wish you'd do it, but it's okay. It's okay. I understand. I understand that you don't feel that it would work right now, or you're scared, or for whatever reason. And that's your choice. I don't agree, but it's your choice. I'm sorry you feel that way, but it's still your choice. And you step back, and maybe you go. Sometimes you go just because it's an example. Okay? Sorry. I hope this is helpful. And I will see everybody in the next question.